Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
Hello. This is Kristin with Ask the Doulas, and I'm excited to chat with Amy Beckley. She is CEO and founder of Proov, and Amy is also a PhD scientist. So welcome, Amy. I'm so excited to chat with you about both your professional journey and your personal infertility journey.
It is so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so share a bit about your, professional background and let our listeners know more about Proov, and then we'll get into your personal journey.
Yeah, sure. So I am a scientist. I started off thinking I want to go to med school, and I volunteered in an ER. The first time I had to hold the hand of a poor man getting stitches, I about passed out. And so I decided that maybe that medical field was not right for me, but I still loved science and like how things worked and like biology. And so I went to school to get a PhD, and I studied pharmacology. So it's like how things work. So it's like how different body systems communicate to each other, and with a special focus on hormones. So I did things like stress signaling, so like cortisol hormone. I did breast cancer signaling. So what happens when the breast metastasizes to the lungs and like how that happens.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So I just really love science and just wanted to kind of make an impact in the space. I always wanted to do something, they call it in the field translational, which means take something out of the lab and into the world where people can actually use it. And so that was really my goal, was to create something that had like an effect, right? Like an actual product that was actually changing lives and creating an impact, because there's so much really cool research that's done within universities and companies that never like kind of comes to light. And so I always knew that I wanted to create that impact. If I couldn't be a medical provider and be, patient-facing care, I wanted to provide tools for the medical professionals to do their jobs better.
I love it. So was Proov your first business, or did you have other concepts that you brought into the world before Proov?
No, it's my first and only. So after I got my PhD, you do what's called a postdoc, which is like postdoctoral training, kind of like a residency for the medical field, but for science. And during that, I had gotten married and I had moved into a nice house and like a new nice neighborhood with a good school. And we're like, okay, let's just have kids. How hard could it be? And we struggled. And then we got pregnant and we lost that pregnancy. And then we got pregnant and we lost that one again. And it just came very clear to me that it wasn't easy. Physicians were missing it. Here I was, this educated, scientific-minded person, could not get pregnant. And my diagnosis was unexplained infertility, which is the most common diagnosis you can get. I was like, man, this field we need to figure this out, because we just don't have the right tools and diagnostics. And so, my personal journey was my first child was an IVF child. And so he is now 12.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that was basically like, we don't know what's wrong with you, Amy. And since we don't know what's wrong, really the only thing that's going to work really well is IVF. It's kind of like that medical Band-Aid that just kind of fixes everything that could possibly be wrong. So I went through that IVF process. And then when we went to try again for our second child, I was like, I don't want to do IVF. I'd rather figure it out. I mean, like I have all these tools and knowledge, and I was connected to these really amazing reproductive endocrinologists and really talented doctors. It's like, let's put the science and the medicine together. Let's like figure this out, and came up with this diagnostic where we look at the hormone called progesterone after ovulation. So progesterone is the progestational hormone. It is what keeps a woman pregnant, and it prepares the uterus for implantation. And we weren't monitoring this hormone enough, in that you can't just go and get a blood test and be like, oh yeah, everything's fine. It's just like you can't go to get a blood test for a single glucose. It doesn't make sense. Like, you have to track trends, and you got to make sure that hormone remains elevated. And so we created a urine-based test where we look at the metabolite in urine of progesterone across the entire implantation window. And we look, is it sustained? Is it elevated? Does it come down too early? And so we can really talk about this idea of a healthy ovulation, and we can look at, are there possible ovulatory disorders? Because my problem wasn't timing. It wasn't that I wasn't getting pregnant. It was, I wasn't able to stay pregnant. It was something not to do with timing. It was something to do with implantation and maintaining a pregnancy.
Okay. So yeah, it's amazing that you have personal experience that probably just elevated your passion for this work.
Yeah, I mean, through the course of my journey, I've had 7 losses, and I just, at the end, I say coming out of the closet, for lack of a better word, but I just kind of, you go through it and you just don't want to tell anybody. You feel like less of a woman. You feel ashamed. You're like, what is wrong with me if I can't even conceive? I mean, look at everybody else. Look at all these kids. And so I closed myself off. And then after my family was complete, I opened up and I was like, this is what happened. This is what I did. And I just had so many women, friends, privately message me. It was like, I'm going through the same thing. Like, what did you do? What can I say? And I would just educate them one-on-one on kind of like questions to ask, what kind of tests that they need, things that they could try. And then finally, one day, one of my good friends that also went through IVF, she called me and she's like, we have to do something. We have to at least try to fix this, because no one else is doing this. No one else is creating these tools. Why don't we just do it? So we did. We just bought a bunch of reagents and went down to my basement and kind of like, okay, all right, so the literature says we can do this, and all right, I can make some prototypes. I can get this to work. Okay. So we launched a crowdfunding campaign and presented it to women, to couples. Hey, if we built this, would you buy it? And they did. And so we made it.
I love it. Yeah. So you're getting a response before you're fully to market. I love crowdfunding, especially for women-owned businesses, because it's so hard to raise capital.
Yeah, definitely.
So as far as, obviously the IVF process is not only expensive, but there are disappointments. There's the hormone fluctuations. There are just so many issues when taking that on. And so it sounds like your solution is not only simpler, but more economical for families who are trying to conceive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as part of IVF, you retrieve the eggs and then you transfer the fertilized embryo back in, and then you support the luteal phase with progesterone. It's usually a big fat needle straight to the butt. It's not fun. It's really painful.
That's what I hear. Yes.
Yeah. But I asked my doctor, I was like, let's just skip the IVF part. And I would just like to support my luteal phase with progesterone, because I just don't think I'm making enough of it after ovulation to really support that pregnancy.
Okay.
And so that's what I did for my daughter, who's now 9, was I monitored ovulation, I timed intercourse, and I started the progesterone, and I just kept taking it. And then I got a positive pregnancy test, and I continued taking it throughout the entire first trimester. And that was it. Like, that's all I did, was just add progesterone. And it was like that missing piece, because there was no diagnostic out there to tell you that somebody didn't have enough progesterone to support pregnancy.
Right.
Hey, Alyssa here. I'm just popping in to tell you about our course called Becoming. Becoming a Mother is your guide to a confident pregnancy and birth, all in a convenient 6-week online program. From birth plans to sleep training and everything in between, you'll gain the confidence and skills you need for a smooth transition to motherhood. You'll get live coaching calls with Kristin and myself, a bunch of expert videos, including chiropractic care, pelvic floor physical therapy, mental health experts, breastfeeding, and much more. You'll also get a private Facebook community with other mothers going through this at the same time as you to offer support and encouragement when you need it most. And then, of course, you'll also have direct email access to me and Kristin, in addition to the live coaching calls. If you'd like to learn more about the course, you can email us at info@goldcoastdoulas.com or check it out at thebecomingcourse.com. We'd love to see you there.
So what does the investment look like for a family? At what point should they be reaching out to you?
So I really like making fertility diagnostics affordable and accessible. And so we are actually FDA cleared for home use. And so these women can buy these on their own. They're on Amazon. They're on our website. We're launching in a major retailer in a couple months.
That's so exciting. I saw you could get them from your website, but it's very accessible.
I mean, what's more accessible than the Amazon truck?
Exactly.
I've seen it. Some women, they get it with the same day. Like it's like 12 hours later, they show up on their doorstep. So it's really cool. Our base kit are like $29. And so we try to make them really affordable as well. And then if you do find an issue and you need a treatment, the medications that typically come in order to treat these types of issues are like the ones that are covered under your $10 copays through insurance.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's so affordable and accessible and simple.
Yes. It's just, we didn't know that this was an option. So it goes from trying ourselves straight to IVF. And we really want to create that kind of middle ground where it's like, all right, we've been trying a while. It just hasn't happened. Before we go see an RE or think about IVF, why don't we try Proov, see if we can identify any issues? And then you kind of arm with that knowledge that if you do identify an issue, your OB can treat you. You don't have to go to an RE. And it really just cuts down that time. I also absolutely hated these arbitrary time limits where it was like, you've got to try 12 months or have 3 losses to go seek care. And I was like, what? Like, come on. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
So if
some people, if they are delayed, they don't have that much of a window to conceive. So if they're older.
Yeah. So like if we arm them with that knowledge and it's like they come in there with, hey, I've identified this issue, that speeds up that clock there. You don't have to do these arbitrary time limits.
I love it. And so you're bringing information then to your OB. So tell us a bit more about why it's important to be self-empowered when, managing your own personal healthcare journey, especially with obviously preconception and conception.
I mean, I think it's really important to self-advocate for yourself and do what you feel is right. There is no right or wrong answer. It's what's right for you and what's right for your family. Like we have a traditional health system that tells you you have to wait 12 months and then you have to go to an OB and then you have to deliver in a hospital and like all these different things. It's like, no, you don't. If that's not right for your family, then you don't have to do that. And just knowing that there are these resources. Another thing I like to say is you're hiring these people to be your care providers. And if you go into a medical provider, a doctor's office, whatever, and you're not getting the support that you need, you're getting brushed off, they're telling you things that you're like, I don't know if that's right for me. Fire them, go find somebody else. I mean, it's the best care that you can get is when you have an active conversation between yourself and your medical provider. And it's a two-way street because you are the expert in you and that medical provider is an expert in medicine. And when you put the two minds together, that's when you see the best treatment outcomes, the fastest, cheapest, best thing for you. And so if you can't have that open dialogue and that open conversation with them, you're going to struggle. You're either going to spend too much money, you're going to go around in circles, you're not going to have a good experience.
Agreed. Trust is everything. We relay that to our doula clients all the time. So wonderful advice. Do you have any other tips for our listeners who are silently struggling with infertility?
Yeah, one thing I've learned is that like a mother's intuition is very, very real and correct a lot of times. And so if you feel that there's something wrong, if you feel like they're missing it, they're not listening, like you should follow that, and you should again kind of search for that and think about it, because a lot of times it's true, right? And
Yes.
people go, oh well, I don't know if that's right. Maybe I'm just crazy. It's like, no, you have those thoughts because there's a reason. And so, bring them up to your provider, think about them, try to get solutions based off of that.
Yeah, I think planning is everything, with the appointments being as short as they are, just having some talking points written down to make sure you cover everything.
Yes, that is a big one too. Like every time I'd go into those appointments, I would just get nervous, and then like they'd say something like, okay, and I'd leave. And I'm like, darn it, there's all these things I wanted to ask.
Exactly.
So another really big tip was I had a little Post-it note, and I think now we could probably do like notes on your phone or something, where as soon as you get a question, you just write it down, right? And then, when you're sitting there face to face with your provider and they say, hey, anything else? You go, yeah. And you bring out your Post-it note or your phone notes and you go through the questions and you make sure everything is addressed, because you forget in the moment, and then you don't ask, or you feel nervous or whatever. So if you write them down and just read them out, you can get a lot of those answers where.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great tip. So any other trusted resources to share with our listeners as they're, either, struggling with infertility or planning future babies, and they're in that early stage of just talking about wanting to get pregnant?
Yeah, I would say getting involved sooner than later has always been better. So for example, the couples that are like, okay, I'm struggling, but I'm just going to wait, they tend to spend more money on fertility treatments than the ones that are more kind of proactive. I call them the type A'ers. Where
yes, makes sense.
Like teachers are huge type A. They're like, all right, I have to get pregnant in this month because then that coincides with summer break.
Absolutely.
And they're like planning everything out. And so that I suggest, we at Proov have like a lot of information about fertility and resources and testing. We don't just do the female side, we do a male side as well. So we have a test for looking at motile sperm to make sure he is also functioning correctly, because a lot of infertility is the male as well. And
yes,
we as females kind of put it all on our shoulders. We're the one tracking and, using the apps and all this stuff. And a lot of times we just forget that it does take a sperm too. And it's an egg and a sperm to conceive.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of miseducation out there as well. Biggest one is ovulation test. That is incorrect. It's not an ovulation test. It's not telling you if you're ovulating. It's telling you, do you have this hormone that spikes before you ovulate? But it's not actually telling you you are ovulating and you have a healthy ovulation and you can support implantation. And so there's a lot of just misinformation out there that can be very frustrating to women. Period tracker apps is another one that's kind of a love-hate relationship, where they use calendars and they don't know your unique body.
Right.
And so we have couples come into us where they're like, yeah, I've been timing intercourse off of my period tracker app for 12 months. I'm so frustrated it's not working. I'm like, well, yeah, because it's missing your ovulation. Like it's missing the fact that you're not having intercourse in the right days. Maybe you're not even ovulating. Like your app doesn't know your hormones. Like it's impossible to know. And so I get frustrated with the lack of information or wrong information, but we just, it's not helpful. It's actually harmful sometimes, because people think, oh, it's fine. And then they go straight to IVF because they've done everything they could possibly do and they timed intercourse, where it's just the tools that you were using are just not as accurate as you thought they were.
Yeah. And, their friend may have used IVF with success. So it's the only option that they know of. So with this information, the more options you have, the better.
Yes.
So how do our listeners and doula clients find you? I know you have a website, you're on a lot of different social media channels. What are the best ways to learn more, to connect, to order?
Yes, the best place is our website. So it's proovtest.com. So proovtest.com. There you can sign up for emails where we have a bunch of educational content. There's a bunch of blogs. All that stuff is free. You can do a quiz to see what kind of tests, that are available that might be right for you. We have a lot of educational content on Instagram. So it's at proovtest. It's a great place where there's scientific tidbits of information. We really try to educate women and couples to understand these ins and outs of fertility because it can be quite confusing. We have a really amazing group of users on Facebook. So we have a user and support group on Facebook. It's about 10,000 women right now.
That's huge.
Yeah, so you go in, you learn about the products, you can go in there, you can talk about the products, what it means, you can get support. And then we have once you graduate, we have a pregnancy group where, women who've used Proov to get pregnant can kind of talk about their pregnancies in a safe spot. So those are both on Facebook. And then you can also buy it on Amazon. So if you just search Proov test on Amazon, there's a variety of different tests and kits that we offer. We don't just do fertility testing, but we also have products that support a healthy cycle. And so we have a couple of supplements that we offer that can really promote healthy hormones and a healthy cycle. But yeah, those are the best places to find us.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amy. It was lovely to chat with you. And I look forward to hearing some success stories from our clients and listeners.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.